And welcome in, everybody, to the MHRT podcast. I'm your host, Mundungus Creevy, joined by my co-host, the 6'10" Mexican, Mr. Boggins, and Glenn Hauser. We go live every Thursday at 7654. You know where to put them, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you would, please give us a like and a follow, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up, and share everything we post everywhere. How's everybody doing today?
Salutations, my friends. How's everybody?
Doing great.
Too bad. Hey, I've noticed that we are the #1 Denver Broncos podcast with a host that's Mexican and 6'10".
Yeah,
just so everybody knows.
I was hoping we would overtake the other three, but
I legit wrote that in my 5-year plan that would be the case for my life. So that's good.
So Don, you can't go anywhere because if you do, then we can't say that anymore.
I am contractually obligated to say I agree.
Oh man, so it has been nuts. The last time we had the podcast, we had a bunch of news to fill everyone in on, and now we've got some more Denver Broncos news and some more NFL news. So what we're gonna do is go ahead into this segment that we made last time called the weekly recap.
Look, Ma, no hands.
How's that one?
It reminds me
great.
It reminds me of a time long ago.
That's dreamy.
Hopefully, it's not indicative how the segment goes.
I hope not either. But no, this is going to be our segment where we kind of push the Broncos stuff to the side and go through the whole NFL and try to fill everybody else in on what's going on, and then we'll go into the Broncos stuff after that. So, I guess the biggest news for the thing that just happened. Looks like Malcolm Butler is going to be signing with the Cards for a 1-year deal. I don't really know if he's even. I mean, is he even relevant anymore?
Yeah, they called up the Seahawks on Twitter too, and then the Seahawks came right back at him. They posted. They're like, remember when this happened, and showed Malcolm Butler picking off Russell Wilson, and then the Seahawks retweeted and it was like, remember how you have no Super Bowl rings?
Oh, that's funny.
Adam Humphries just signed with Washington.
Did he?
Ooh, good for him. He wasn't getting used that much in Tennessee.
But what if they don't have a quarterback? Oh, wait, that's right. Fitzpatrick.
Magic,
I'll ask my question again. What happens since they don't have a quarterback?
I don't know what team you're talking about because they have a quarterback. The
Another
beard will throw the ball just on its own.
Another bit of breaking news is Joe Flacco is still a crappy teammate.
Yes, he is.
With the Eagles now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there was
Perfect
like,
personality. Just comparison. You know, they'll have a
Yeah,
good time there.
so he
It's all
said
fun.
like he said the same thing like I'm not here to train a new
Mentor.
guy or mentor a new guy. I'm here to play football. And then he kind of backtracked when he was asked, and he was like, well, his teammates were here to kind of support everyone and help everyone, but I'm here to play. Like, no, you're not. You're there to sit. Like, you're not going to play.
We're on to Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati.
We're going to have a good week of practice. It looks like the Bills signed Matt Breida.
Running back.
Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of people have mocked Najee to the Bills.
Mhm.
So it doesn't look like they're going to be picking up
Who's the
running
one
back.
they had? Who's the running back the Bills had this last year?
Singletary. Then
yeah,
also
Singletary.
Zach Moss.
Zach Moss.
So they're which is it? Zach Moss. Both of them are young, so they have a full backfield now.
Well, Moss and Breida are kind of alike, aren't they?
No,
Singletary is the big back.
no, opposite.
No,
Opposite. Moss is the big back. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Singletary.
Yeah. I think I saw a reaction from Philip Lindsay on there. He had the angry emoji, so I don't know.
he had like the hard working emoji, just like I'm ready.
Yeah, that
But,
one. I took
Yeah,
it.
poor kid.
I don't know. I was like, did he want to go to Buffalo? And they said no. Is that what happened? Or is that
I just that whole thing is just so weird. Like Philip Lindsay is a big free agent, and then he signs with Houston. Like that's really
The next day.
the next day?
The reported contract is not very good. I mean,
yeah.
What's your agent like when you're an undrafted free agent? Not as good because it seems like it.
Well, it's just like nothing against Philip Lindsay. Like we all love the guy, but really, Houston? That's your pick?
how's
I
he
mean,
going
was that a pick or was that his only pick? That's my question.
Probably the best his agent can do.
I mean, the crappy part is he wants a 1-year prove it deal, right? Which is what he got, but you're not going to prove anything in Houston. You have nothing there. And then you're third string.
With the other two running backs, and now you don't really have a line to run. Like they didn't have a line last year, and it's not like they addressed it in free agency. Like Watson was the second most sacked quarterback last year.
Yeah.
And the defenses in that division are pretty decent. So
Yeah, and they're without a lot of key players this year around. So I mean, Houston is just in a rebuilding mode, and they're probably going to falter even worse. They have a new head coach. They're hurting on both sides of the ball. To me, it just looked like Lindsay just wanted to get out of Denver.
I know that Deshaun Watson's excited to get back there, though.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Now, just so that everyone is aware, we're not really going to be addressing any Deshaun Watson talk. That's not for us to talk about. Nothing's come out. Nothing's been evaluated or figured out. Once that's all done with, then we'll talk about it. But until something major football-wise happens with Deshaun Watson, we're just not going to talk about it because why?
Tune into the uncensored version at 3 a.m. We have another podcast where we talk about all the things we're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
Broncos After Dark.
Speaking of Broncos After Dark, Shadowjacker.
Who will be at the 3 a.m. podcast?
What's up, gents? How we doing, man? Kenneth Booker. We got Ian C. Raider. Let's see here. Deshaun Jackson's 1-year deal with the Rams. Yeah, that's interesting. Who's because they don't have
Who the Rams?
He was gone last year. I'll say that they didn't have Cooks, but they didn't have him last year either.
No, they have.
Who do they got?
They have Cup.
They have
Cooper Cup.
Van Joseph. They have
Woods.
Van Jefferson.
I'll say. Did you say Vance Joseph?
Yeah, sorry.
That's
Welcome to
Van
LA.
Jefferson.
Right,
they have a solid roster for sure. That's what I think. That Stafford's going to look good there.
Yeah, their secondary might.
He's just having the time of his life.
Their secondary might be struggling a little bit this year because even though they were able to secure Jalen Ramsey, they lost Sam Johnson to the Browns, and
John Johnson, yeah.
John Johnson. Sorry, thank you.
Mhm.
They
Hill.
still have both of their cornerbacks, right? What's his
I
name?
think they lost
still?
Hill too, right? Or did he resign?
No, I believe Hill is gone too.
Yeah.
I forgot what team he went to, but they lost both of their safeties.
Mhm.
But their cornerbacks are still there. Ramsey and I can't think of his name.
They're
The
Other
other corner. Yeah.
I think it's Hill.
Yeah,
Hill.
Ramsey and Hill.
Ramsey.
Yeah, but they lost their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Bradley Staley. Oh, Marcus Peters. That's what I was thinking of. He's not with the Rams anymore?
No. He was in the trade.
He was only on a one-year deal, though.
He was on the trade that sent Ramsey away to the
Ravens.
He's the Ravens.
Yeah.
Peters is the Ravens.
Let's see. NFL has a story on trade grades, and the Raiders get an F. Don't they? I mean, don't they always get an F? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
What are they even doing? Like, I don't understand. Like, they have no offensive line anymore.
But imagine being Mike Mayock and being like a hardcore draft fanboy / scout, and then you get the keys to be GM, and then every year you're like, I have a sleeper pick that no one knows about, and then you just screw it up. You just screw the pooch every single time.
Well, then I was so excited because it looked like they were or Mariota was gonna leave, and I was like, Mariota would be a good fit in Denver, but then he signs for less to stay with the Raiders. Like,
Yeah, he took it.
It's very incentive laden, so it can go up, but
he dropped $7 million off his salary. It can go up to as high as $8 million from a $3 million deal. But he put a no trade clause, which is very interesting. I think he's planning on being the starter there, actually.
My assumption is that Derek Carr is going to get pounded on because there's no offensive line, so they got to put Mariota in there to run around.
I'll take Derek.
Hey, we saw last year that it didn't take an inflicted injury on him. He self-injured himself in that game against the Chargers. So, one thing that I did agree about the Raiders, and as much as I hate saying I agree with Cowherd on this, was when he talked about it, that giving John Gruden a 10-year contract was a huge mistake because he has not lived up to any part of that deal. And they're going barely into their fourth year. So, as Broncos fans, we love to see them crash and burn, but as Raiders fans, it's got to be, just hurting.
I mean, let's be honest. You've seen Mark Davis, right? Does he look like someone that's good at making any sort of decision? So I mean,
let's start with the haircut.
Right.
The Jags signed former 49ers quarterback Beathard. CJ Beathard gets to go be a Jag.
Which is very interesting because that makes you wonder what's going to happen with Minshew
or Mullins
and Alex Smith. So that kind of like negates the whole Alex Smith rumor of going to the Jags to be with Urban Meyer and everything. So
Gardner Minshew is interesting.
I agree
because I'm not going to say that he's not a good quarterback because I mean he did go 6-6 with like a pretty mediocre Jags team.
He beat us.
And last year they were just awful. I don't care who the quarterback was. They were just bad.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say that I would hate having Minshew, but he's not my first choice. It's kind of like Darnold. Like I wouldn't hate it, but he's not. I'm not banging the table for us to go get Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
okay,
I would be
while we're
surprised.
talking about
Okay, go for it.
Who would you want your quarterback room to be this coming season?
Out of who's left, or like ideally,
just draft, signees, trades, whatever. Who do you think?
Like top 2 or 3? 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks. What are we doing?
2 or 3, whatever floats your boat.
I do Fields, Lance, and Locke. Not like Fields or Lance, Locke. I don't think Wilson's even in the equation unless we do what Crazy wants or thinks is going to happen and trade up to 3, which I don't. And then the Jets actually turn out to like apparently where you've been hearing rumors that the Jets are considering just keeping Darnold and just kind of rolling with the punches, which is very weird and would completely shake up the top 5.
Well, but that's another thing I was going to say was like I guess the Corey Davis was told that part of his shut up, Glenn. part of the selling point for him going to the Jets was that they said that he'll come there, but if he's playing with Darnold. So I find that interesting.
But it's also like how much weight do you take on a receiver saying what he heard? Like, are they really going to show their hand like that to just a receiver coming in? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I think who is a possibility is Fields or Lance, but we'd still have to trade up to like 5 or 4 or whatever to get past the Panthers, because they're definitely going to snag one of them. But I would like to just have like we have a good enough roster where we can just like Drew and like a Fields or a Lance and just like shoot it out, man. Just like see what you got. Like we're playing the franchise QB game here. We got to find one. Like whatever one doesn't work out, trade bait. Like cool.
Yeah. No, I think it would be Alex Smith, Drew Lock, Trey Lance. Because then you got the veteran, you've got Locke to see what he can do, and then just in case you've got Trey Lance learning under Alex Smith and Drew Lock to then come in the next year if it doesn't work. That's my ideal, but that's just because Fitzmagic's not available anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Mike.
Oh!
I was gonna say Mike.
You can call me Fitzmagic Jr. I'll take that.
Yeah, okay.
I just can't throw a football.
I'm more agreed towards the Alex Smith one. You know, Alex Smith, Drew Lock, and then if Peyton wants to get whichever quarterback is available in the second round, you know, I'm fine with it. But other than that, I mean, like Boggin said, if the Jaguars, you know, pass up on getting a quarterback, it's going to shake up the entire top 10. I would say, not just the top 5 in terms of, you know,
let's see here. Ian C. Rader, Lock and Rippin. Man,
we've seen that movie already, bro.
We saw that last year, and we all kind of agree that Rippin is not a starting quarterback. So if Lock doesn't work out or Lock gets hurt, you got Rippin in there. It just doesn't make any sense. Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. Like sticking with Lock and Rippin, you're going to get the same thing you got last year. So I'm not saying the Lock isn't going to work out, but you have to have someone behind him just in case he goes down. You have to.
Rippin's ceiling is
Mark Rippin. It was Mark Rippin, not Brett. So
Rippin's ceiling is Trevor Siemian, and Broncos country knows enough about Trevor Siemian to know that like doesn't go anywhere. Like it runs slightly oiled. Like
it's like oiled.
Here we go.
I love Trevor Siemian. The poor guy didn't have a chance behind that line.
Yeah, you can blame Peter King for that.
Mark Langley, a little kid came up to Mop and Glow, a.k.a. Juwan James, said, "I'm a big fan of yours." And James replied, "Let me give you my autograph," knowing the kid didn't have eyebrows either, so he filled in the blanks. Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, man.
Oh, let's see. Chad, did y'all hear Peyton didn't go to the Alabama Pro Day for Jones? And the next time Jones throws will be at the same time as Fields. So is this a smoke screen on QBs?
Funny you mentioned this. No.
All yours, man. Go ahead.
No.
So you can't put your 0 sacks copy and paste on that one.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was reported that Peyton was going to be at all the pro days. However, he did not, or all the pro days for the top 5 QBs, but he didn't go to the first Alabama Pro Day, and the second Alabama Pro Day is coming up on Friday, in which so is Ohio State. So the report had mentioned that he was specifically going to see Mac Jones at was going to see Mac Jones at some point. And if he wasn't going to be at that one, then that means he's going to be at the one on Friday, which is interesting because that would mean he would see Mac Jones over Justin Fields, which would be a very curious thing to do. Now, you always have scouts that are going to be at all of them, right? But I think there's a little bit of a difference when you actually get to get your eyes on someone that could potentially be your franchise QB. Like if it's an option, which they've said that it is an option if at 9 or whatever, that the Broncos could take a quarterback. I feel like when you're taking that much of a gamble, you'd want to get your eyes on your quarterback. And if you're going to look at Mac Jones over Justin Fields, that's saying something to me. I mean, unless they're going to, I don't know specifically what times they're at, but if you're trying to fly from Ohio to Alabama real quick, maybe.
No. I don't know, because like I think that there's more questions on Justin Fields, Mac Jones. Like, we're gonna have seen Mac Jones at the Senior Bowl. He had the pro day. He's gonna have another pro day. I just feel like there's not as many questions on Mac Jones as there is on Justin Fields. So Peyton's gonna go see Field and let the other scouts go see Mac Jones. I mean, it's not like Peyton's gonna go to every single pro day.
So, it's one thing I do want to address is that, I know that if you say something negative or if you suggest getting a different quarterback in the room, you hate Drew Lock. And I don't think any of us could say that that's even remotely the case for us. I've got his jersey hanging in my office. I love the guy. I really hope he pans out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not improving, that would be like if you brought in a linebacker. Do you hate Von Miller? No, you're trying to get better. Do you? And for some reason, that's the narrative. The just you're a Lock hater. You're not with the team. And it just is. It's driving me nuts because we just need to improve. And unfortunately, the biggest hole or the deficit that happened last year, at least, was in the most important position on the team, and that's quarterback. And maybe he turns it around this year, and that would be amazing. Especially we have 2 seasons left at a cheap salary, and then you see what happens. But you have to look at improving. Mm-hmm. But one of the fun things about this offseason is that we don't know any of the habits and traits of George Payton as the official general manager because he's never been one. So you can't lean on his past things where you kind of had an idea of how Elway was going to operate and could forecast. We could be trading up. We could be sitting still. We could be trading back. You just never know, and that's what's making this so much fun to watch.
We got a Shadow Jacker. Excluding our offensive line, we are the TSA's worst nightmare because of all the offensive weaponry. Oh, I got to read all these hashtags. Hashtag feeling very lucky. Hashtag all of Sutton. Hashtag Judge Judy. Hashtag no you Fant. Hashtag Sam Jones. And hashtag TP for your bunghole.
Hashtag Sam Jones, like
that one's going on top. What's the Sam Jones one?
Like the lineman that we
I believe that's what it was.
I'm sticking with
never started.
I'm just hung up on TP for your bunghole. So I'm
more curious about the Sam Jones one.
No, I think it was Sam Johnson when Don called him, said John Johnson. I think.
Yeah. When I made the mistake.
Oh, gotcha.
But a year ago,
but Sam Jones. That's a deep cut.
Let's see. Chad, got to go with Smith. Okay. Alex Smith.
I just don't want to pay it. I just don't want to.
Well, okay.
What are you paying for? You're paying $20 million for what? Like, I mean, I guess competition for the starting spot, and then you're not even get to see if Locke does progress because, like, he's got to go in there and learn. Like, either you're doing one or the other. You know what I mean? Like, you're either going and drafting a QB and having them fight out for the future. Alex Smith is not the future. He is 35 years old. Like, why? Why would you spend $20 million for an older QB to get in the game and just like mediocre the way through the season?
Well, but here's the big question though. With Alex Smith still sitting out there, and basically with us going into the second round of free agency, you got to think that his pay expectations are going to be going down. Because nobody's gonna pay Alex Smith what he was looking for at the beginning of free agency if he's still there sitting around the draft or after the draft.
I just don't want to pay him anything coming in here and like for what? That's what I just don't. I don't understand because he's gonna want to start because that was the whole thing, so about him leaving Washington, and he didn't feel like they wanted him and didn't want to start, like all that stuff. So, wow.
Boggins said it right though. You know, if the Broncos bring in a trade for a QB right now, if they sign an expensive veteran backup like a Smith, even if he's not 20 million, even if he's 8 million, I mean that's a lot to devote to a backup. Even though I really like him, but Hayden is not going to want to show his hand at all right now, so he's not going to make any. I don't foresee him making any quarterback moves before draft day or right before draft day. I think he's going to. I think he's going to put everything, keep it close to the best, no doubt.
Big E Bronco. Mac Jones reminds me of a Case Keenum.
Case Keenum has been a roller coaster. He's had some good highlights and he's had some really bad ones. So
Case Keenum was a lot more athletic in college.
Well, yeah. I think it depends on the scheme that Mac Jones is in too. Like if you paired, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but if you paired Mac Jones with like a Shermer, I think that he would do better as opposed to if you had Mac Jones with Shanahan. You know what I mean? So that's the one knock I'll give Mac Jones is it seems like, because we don't know, that he's a pretty specific scheme fit depending on how well you want him to play.
He's a quick process. He's like a Rippon. Like a Rippon would be decent in a Shermer system just because he's quick read, and that's what Shermer's system is. There's not a lot of deep shots. There's not a lot of improvisation usually, and so
that's one of the reasons why Alex Smith would work too, because it's the quick reads, doesn't need to take the big shots. But I mean, Mac Jones is kind of that mix between Drew Lock and Brett Rippon. He's got the smarts of Rippon, but he's got a better arm than Rippon. But he doesn't have quite the arm as Lock. So I don't know. I mean,
$20 million.
What, Mac?
Have this for 20
I was
talking about Mac Jones.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah.
Like Alex Smith, like early in his career, maybe, but not now.
I just like, ugh.
I love Alex Smith, but every
day?
time he takes a step, I feel like it's just gonna, and he's just gonna.
If you watched Mac Jones pro day, like legitimately, the only thing you could take away is good. Like, and that's not what I want.
Yeah.
I don't want just like, good. Like that's enough. Nothing was his no arm strength was wow. No physical ability was wow. Like some of his just crossing routes were slightly off. And it's like, man, if you're not insanely athletic, you better be hitting every single one of these slants in perfect stride, because that's all you have right now.
Let's see what we got here. Jason, he's asking the question we were talking about before we came on. What do you think of Kyle Brandt's comments about the Broncos being irrelevant? Is that directed to the coaches and bad decisions the past few years? I think the most of us agreed that like it's Kyle Brandt. Who cares? I mean,
I disagree.
We kind of are relevant at the moment. I mean, yeah, we had some good defensive signings in free agency, but until we can prove that we can make the playoffs, like if we're not worse and we're not in the playoffs, you kind of are irrelevant. You know, that's what we were talking about with Boggins and Adon was like, if you're pick like 7 or 8 to like pick 16 to 18, like you kind of are. Like you're not good enough to be in the playoffs, but you're not good enough or you're not bad enough to be in the top 5. So I guess I agree somewhat. Like we kind of are until we can prove that we're not.
And like I said while we were backstage, you know, it's okay to say if you're irrelevant if you're a Broncos fan, it's fine. But if you're anybody else,
shut your face.
Well, my only problem with that is that while I do agree with Kyle's comment that the Broncos have been irrelevant, sort of, he also just kind of ignores all the strides that Denver has made to try to better themselves, you know. And if you watch any other shows, you see most of these analysts commenting about what the Browns are doing to upgrade themselves, what the Patriots are doing to upgrade themselves, what San Francisco, what every other team has done to upgrade themselves is being talked about, but not Denver. So it kind of gets to a point. It's kind of like the opposite of where we were last year. You know, we talked about this before, where last year every analyst was saying Denver was going to be a dark horse, and people who weren't Broncos fans were talking about how great Denver was going to be. And then, unfortunately, that didn't happen. And that sucks. You know, injuries were a reason why. Bad quarterback play was another reason why. You know, throw a dart, take your pick, whatever. But the fact that, you know, that Denver's going in kind of, you know, unnoticed this season, and they have a chance to, you know, make some noise and shock some people, to me, is exciting.
Mark, it's good to see my buddy Glenn. Hashtag bald is beautiful.
I think
everybody
the Broncos
just keeps giving us these hashtags that are awesome.
I think the Broncos are irrelevant as far as national media is concerned that don't actually delve into rosters at all. And when you're getting it from the shock jockey of the View of NFL Network, like, cool.
If you became famous from the real world, shut up.
Yeah, I could care less. Like, literally, yeah, he became famous from the real world, has been on Days of Our Lives. Like, he's an actor. Cool, man. Like, I could care. I could care. He's also a Bears fan. So, like, you want to talk about irrelevancy?
Boom.
Good luck this season, Kyle.
They're going to knock it out of the park with Andy Dalton. Whoop, whoop.
I love how Boggins goes, you know, this guy's irrelevant, and then he proceeds to list his entire IMDb page. You know? First of all, I love Kyle Brandt. I think he's funny. I think he's smart. I think his podcast is great. I think he's right. Actually, we have been irrelevant. We not made the playoffs for 5 years. We've passed up Kyle Shanahan. You know, like, we've done all these different things. I do think that we've completely rounded the corner. I mean, I remember, you know, we started right before the last season, and the optimism that we had for the Broncos was just through the roof. I mean, we all crap on Colin Cowherd now, but when he said something nice about Drew Lock, we're like, all right, he's like, oh my gosh, Colin Cowherd said Drew Lock's like going to be the greatest. So I think it's a fair point. I think it doesn't apply right now. We have filled so many holes and have such an opportunity. I can't remember being more excited about an upcoming season than I am right now. And there's still a lot of mystery still to be solved.
I would have agreed more if it was like he didn't talk about like, they're not losing, they're not winning, they're not, you know, like, being like,
right.
Like, if it was just like not being in the playoffs, sure, like, I'll take it, but not like, you're not bad enough for us to talk about, and you're not good enough for us to talk about. It's just like, cool, man.
Cool, man.
I'd rather watch a commercial.
Biggie Bronco in 14 seasons in Minnesota, when Peyton was the backup GM, he only took a quarterback 2 times in the first round and traded for one with the first round pick in 14 seasons. Yeah, but the key words there are backup GM. Like, he didn't have any, like, that was all Spielman. So you can't really judge what Minnesota did as far as who they picked in the draft, because that was more Spielman, as opposed to Peyton, who was more of the scouting and looking at the players and coming up with the grades for them. So you can't really judge it by that, because we have no idea what he's going to do as the actual GM.
Only speculation. And he had, like, in between, the one they drafted was what, Ponder? Oh, no, Bridgewater too.
Bridgewater.
Ponder, Christian Ponder, Bridgewater, who both played decently solid for a while. Ponder fell off hard, but before that you had Favre, and then you jumped to Keenum, who also took you to the playoffs, and then you had Cousins, who also took you to the playoffs. So it's like,
well, like, you wonder how Bridgewater would have looked if he never gotten that nasty knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the Bridgewater we're seeing now is not, I don't think, is the Bridgewater we would have seen if he hadn't messed up his knee.
When they drafted Ponder top 10, I don't think they envisioned that Sam Ponder would have a longer NFL career than Christian. But
Mark Langley, who would you guys pick a QB in the draft besides the Big Four? And this is another question that I've pondered on. Because with the defensive moves that Denver has made, it looks like Peyton is going all in on Vic Fangio. And with Shermer being Fangio's guy, if they are buying in on all of this, you got to think Mac Jones is an option.
Unless you are Chris Sims and actually Chris Sims had him 3. Had him 3 and then Kellen Mond 4. So you could if depends on who's where you're looking.
Jones I think is definitely the number 5 quarterback. If not Jones, and I'd say Newman.
Yeah, I would probably Newman. I just want to stay away from Mac Jones. The floor is there, but his legacy screams backup quarterback.
Yeah.
But at least you have an upside with Jamie Newman. So I would just swing on that one, I guess, in like the 4th-ish, 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be the Dak Prescott of the draft.
I don't know any of the other quarterbacks besides the ones we talk about, so I'm gonna pass to Glenn on this one.
I know he doesn't look like he's huge, but Kellen Mond is pretty well set to become some level of a pro quarterback. So as far as I'm going outside the top 5, and I think that he would be he might be somebody that the Broncos would look at.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Glenn's answer.
You're better off going with Boggins. Better off.
Let's see here. Jason, I want Locke to be the guy and ball out this year, but I'm still apprehensive. Sucks feeling like that. Hope the work he's putting in brings the team good fortune, as we all do.
You're speaking for all of us, bud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this whole again, Locke haters, Locke lovers things. Like we're all pretty much in the middle. Like we all hope that he does well, but we're all pretty aware of how bad he played last year and how bad it could be. So I think it's more of not hating Locke and not loving Locke, but understanding where his ceiling now is.
Yeah. I would personally hate it if our really cheap young quarterback played to an MVP level. You know what I mean? I would just hate it.
No?
Oh. Okay.
And that's I mentioned it to you guys a couple of weeks ago. It would be fun to think. Ponder seems to be the word of the night, but to ponder what the. So say we didn't have to worry about quarterback. What would we be looking at right now? It would be so much fun but unfortunately, it's a concern, and it's very interesting that people just assumed that Peyton was riding out the year, wanted to get rid of Fangio. I never understood that whole narrative. Shermer's Fangio's guy; they're very close, and it's clear that Peyton does not have any desire to fire Vic Fangio after this year. I mean, I hear lame duck, I hear all these different things, and these moves are not saying that you should fire Vic Fangio. These moves are saying Vic Fangio is like one of the hottest names on the market right now as far as like a defensive genius. And if you notice, like the Rams are now running a Fangio scheme. The coach of the Chargers got his job because of Vic Fangio, and they're going to be doing the Fangio defense. That tree is branching out, and he's catching fire. Really,
it's
really
kind of
late. I don't think the Fangio's seat is as hot as Shermer's and Locke's.
Yeah,
I think their seats are hotter.
I agree with you.
Because if the defense balls out, they're not like, even if we went 7-9, like if the defense is like top 10, they're not going to let him go.
Yeah,
I think if the defense is like 10th in the NFL, I'll be disappointed because the potential is just there.
Also, Peyton doesn't want to go into a year where we might get a new owner and he's looking bad. You know what I mean? He wants to build this team to like look good for whoever the new owner is. It's not going to come in like especially if it's a billionaire that's just like, whatever, I'll eat the cap and just like throw away everything and just rebuild the whole thing because new regime pretty much. But I mean, if has a solid boom, you know what I mean? Like a lot of these new owners like something flashy, something to market, right? And so if they don't have anything to market, they just have crap. They're not going to want to keep any of it around. They're going to want to start fresh and have their new GM draft, move up to the number 1 overall pick because it's flashy and you want to you want to sell seats. So I mean, I see him attempting to win this year with what he has, and then we'll address the Shermer issue later. I mean, whether or not Fangio is a good head coach or not is still to be determined based on basically just his clock management skills and his not want to touch the offensive side whatsoever. But he is such a great defensive mind that you keep him. It's kind of like an Andy Reid. Andy Reid was terrible clock management, right? But he's such a great offensive mind that you keep him around, and then he happens to have a Patrick Mahomes and then weapons on the offense, or like a John Gruden, who's a very good offensive mind, but is crazy. And but you keep him around because he's such a good, he doesn't really touch the defense, stuff like that. But I think that once we get the offense figured out, it'll kind of start gelling a little bit. We have enough weapons. I just hope they kind of I would love them to make a swing for something, swing for the fence, man. You know what I mean?
Shadow Jacker, the streets are talking of whispers and murmurs of Aaron not remaining a sharp cheddar. Now, dudes, will you trade for him? What say you? I'm assuming that's Aaron Rodgers, and he's not going anywhere. He'll retire a Packer. He just won MVP. He's not going to go anywhere.
There was a Bleacher Report guy that said that they could move on after in 2022, and there were 4 teams that they could talk to, and the Broncos were one of them.
Mm-hmm. I just take Bleacher Report with a grain of salt.
There's 2 or 3 quarterbacks that will never go anywhere. Mahomes would be one. Aaron Rodgers has got to be one, and I want to say Russell Wilson, but at the same time, now there's more scuttlebutt coming out that he's even more upset because they still have not addressed anything on offense. It's been all about defense. And I guess the big issue that Wilson is having with the Seahawks is that they had a pretty good balance going there between rushing and passing for the first 8 games. And then they went super conservative and just ran the ball and stopped throwing the ball as much, and that's when you started to see the struggles in the offense. And apparently that's one of the reasons why Wilson is very upset, is that he feels like he's being held back offensively from throwing the ball.
Yeah, and if
plus he doesn't get any protection. So
yeah, if Rodgers was to leave, if Rodgers was to leave, I promise you he's not coming to the Broncos, because why would you, at that age, why would you want to come to the AFC? You're already in the NFC, which is way easier. I mean, the only thing you have to really go past is Tom Brady, which they should have had this last year. They've been to the NFC Championship 2 years in the 2 last years. You don't want to start anew in the Denver Broncos, who are currently the last in their own division in AFC West, or in the AFC in general.
That's the thing with the Packers is it's not an offensive problem, it's a defensive problem. You have no pass rush. That's the reason you lost, is because you couldn't stop the Bucs. The offense isn't the problem, the defense is the problem.
Which is funny, because going into the season, the whole thought process was that the Packers needed wide receivers. So I just looked at the
one to go with Devonta Adams would be awesome, but
I just looked, and the writer for Bleacher Report has no credibility. He was on Days of Our Lives as well.
I'm gonna guess that everybody at PFF is Days of Our Lives or Real World or
General Hospital.
They all suck.
I was waiting for someone else to throw out another soap opera because none of us knew another name. And then Don's General Hospital.
As the world turns.
Oh,
I think that's about the only other one I know.
That's not, okay.
Well, I know The Bachelor, but
St. Elsewhere.
If they were from a musical or something, I'd listen.
Right. That's right. If they're from High School Musical, I'm totally listening.
West Side Story. Hamilton. I'm listening.
Let's see here. Whoa, it just skipped on me again. Biggie Bronco. Patrick Mahomes looked bad in the Super Bowl without this starting right tackles, but everybody wants to clown on Drew Lock when he was missing his starting right tackle. 14 players was out, including his number 1 wide receiver. Now, 14, right, but 13 of those were on defense. I understand that he was missing Cortland Sutton, but Cortland Sutton doesn't win us 8 games by himself. So, I thought Tim Patrick filled in very well. And as far as the offensive line goes, the first 4 games with Wilkinson in there, I agree with you. But after that, we had a top 15 offensive line. So
I'm never going to
the
compare.
offensive line wasn't the problem.
I'm never going to compare Locke to Mahomes. I'm sorry. Like he was throwing dodgeball moves out there.
I think he's just saying that like we all complained that Drew Lock looked terrible when he was running behind a bad offensive line, kind of like Mahomes was behind a bad offensive line in the Super Bowl. But Denver's offensive line wasn't that bad. Like you can like the year before that, oh yeah, they were terrible. Last year, not really. Dotson was an average tackle. Like he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. And then Garrett Bowles was the best tackle in football. So no, that argument does not hold water. Sorry, buddy.
With the complaints about Drew or just the criticism of Drew, a lot of it's based on poor decisions and poor technique and footwork and things like that. Stuff that at this level he should already be handling. And it does sound like he's getting some outside help in order to address some of the fundamentals of that. People call him stupid, and that is just not true. I mean,
everybody just processes differently.
Right. So those are the things, and those are not related to any of the personnel, any of the injuries, or anything else going on. Those were things that were added to the issues that were created by the injuries, where he wasn't, even like when Tim Jenkins is analyzing him and showing that if he had a different foot back when he started his receiving the snap, that he would already be in a better place. It's like those are the things that put your left foot back instead of your like that. So
BFS says the center was the worst center in football. I no. But at the same time, rookie. And secondly, we're not saying that.
He also won like an award towards the end of the year too with some magazine.
We're not saying like the offensive line wasn't a problem at all. Like there were certainly times where the offensive line was a problem, but the biggest problem with Locke is not offensive line related. It's decision making related. Like if you took Drew Lock and he played exactly the way he played last year, but you took out half of those interceptions, I have no complaints. The turnovers were the problem, and he got a lot of those turnovers by 1, fumbling, or 2, throwing into triple coverage. So a lot of it is decision making, not offensive line. That we're not complaining about him getting hurt because of the offensive line or him always running because of the offensive line. We're complaining because of decision making leading into turnovers. That's the problem that we're having.
And you watch him, he has like kind of the Russell Wilson syndrome sometimes where he bails out of the pocket before he needs to. Like offensive lines are made to keep you in the pocket. That's what they do. Once you're out the pocket, that's it, they can't help you anymore unless they're holding someone. So like when it's all a we're no one's saying that Drew Lock is like he was saying, like Mundugas was saying, Drew Lock is stupid. Like he's processing at the NFL level, like looking at defenses, right? And then he has to put together the footwork of standing in the pockets while 260 to 320 pound men are coming at you. You know what I mean? So it's a processing thing. And do we hope he develops into putting it all together? Yeah, but currently he's at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 type mentality that is just not working out. And so
that's the thing. That's the thing with the offensive line. Like any offensive line, it doesn't matter what NFL team you're on. You have about an average of 3.5 seconds to get that ball out before you
an average offensive line in the NFL is great. Like you know how many quarterbacks would love an average offensive line. Just like you have to make do. You just can't.
So you have at most about 3.5 seconds before you're getting your face ripped off by a defensive lineman or a linebacker. So the issue he's having is that he's processing, but he's not processing fast enough. So it's not really an offensive line problem because eventually they're going to get through the line. That's 100% guarantee. Somebody is going to get through that line and rush the quarterback. You got about 3.5 seconds. That's why Manning was so good, is because he got the ball out in 2.4. That's why he didn't get hit a lot, because he got it out so fast, because he was able to process fast enough. So we're not saying that the offensive line is not a problem at times. we're saying that the bigger problem is the speed of the decision making and the turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was expecting to see the Drew Lock of 2019, towards the end, and unfortunately, that's not what we got going into 2020. But
that's the thing. He looked the same.
Well, I'm talking about, that small reel of, all the touchdowns he made and all the plays and all that. So that small reel was more good than bad. And we finally got a bigger idea of what Drew Lock is like. Now we see that he needs to work on his foot motion. He needs to work on what, like you said, Mike, reading his plays better and making better decisions and not just chucking the ball every time he sees fit. So these are the things that he has to go into this coming season and work on. And that's saying if he gets to start, because we still don't know what the GM could do in the draft if he does get another quarterback and, just light the fire under Drew's chair and say, hey, look, if it's either you shape up or, you might not make it to the full season and you'll have to ship out.
Yeah.
Now, is this still his rookie season?
I'm not even going on that one.
His third season as a rookie.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, he had 50 games in Missouri. So and I'm not saying that he didn't have multiple offensive coordinators in college, but he did have 50 starts. Like, that's a lot more than most quarterbacks that come out of college have when they go into the NFL. So like I said, none of us want Drew Lock to fail. And if it was just a footwork problem, we can work on that and not really have too many complaints. But when you have the footwork problem with the not reading the defense, or not processing fast enough and not being able to go through your reads fast enough and then turning the ball over, that's where we have the problem.
Yeah. Hater. You have a hater.
I try #hater right here. Let's see here.
You get whatever gets sassy Glenn out of there. That's what Glenn wants.
I'm all for getting rid of that. I'm cool.
Hey, it was a good one. Chad, would you draft Sewell assuming he could play right tackle? Worried about James being a no-show, or would you rather take Parsons if they fall to 9?
If Sewell's there, you take him.
Well, yeah. If Sewell's there, I don't think he could play right tackle too. My whole thing is I'm not sold on Parsons anyways. I know that, as we were talking about it earlier, I know that there's been no charges have been filed. Nothing was found. Just because there wasn't any charges filed doesn't mean it didn't happen. It was, I don't care who, there's multiple things going on here. Like I said, it's kind of like it reminds me of Richie Incognito. He didn't really get into legal trouble for it, but you knew it was happening, and people were coming forward saying it was happening, and it ended up being something not so good. So I'm not saying that he's going to turn into that, but the situations kind of remind me of each other. So,
and he's back with the Raiders. They re-signed him.
Did they?
Yeah, for I think another year. I could have sworn I read something that said he was back re-signed.
I don't know. So you can't deny Parsons' talent, but the off-field scares, because even if he's got all the talent in the world, but he gets suspended for 3 years, that doesn't help anybody.
He could be a Vontaze Burfict.
Well, Ruben Foster. If he runs away from his problems, he's going to be running very, very fast, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's either him or
Pro day joke.
Or JKO. But I mean, but you could say that with almost any player, Mike. You just, I mean, every guy coming into the league is a gamble, and even if they're not like that now, who knows if money and fame turns them into something that we don't know they could be. So I guess,
I mean, who would you, if you knew someone had a past of doing some weird stuff and you were about to let them in your house, would you rather let someone that you knew had some weird stuff in their past in your house, or someone that potentially in the future could have some weird stuff in there? You know what I mean? It's like, it's a little bit worse when you know that there was some issues there, rather than someone that you knew that wasn't necessarily something off the top of the report that you needed to look out for as well. You know what I mean? Like something always could pop up, but when it's already there before you're even drafting, you're kind of like, ooh,
See, we had the same situation with Adon, but he's 6'10", and we needed his height.
Yeah,
Yeah, where were you at right tackle?
You trust me, you don't want me blocking for anybody.
Okay.
Do we fall down and stick your leg out?
So, Mike, have you prepared the in memoriam segment where we talk about the Frenchman and Wilkinson and
I have not, because they don't deserve any of my time making a video. But no, I was getting ready to go into that.
Cue the piano music.
We did have some Broncos moves. We didn't talk about Kyle Fuller, who got signed after the podcast last week. So now you got
5 minutes in.
you got Fuller, you got Darby, you got Callahan, and then you've got Simmons, and then they brought Kareem Jackson back. So yeah. I like that secondary.
Now we just
I don't think it's like the no-fly zone 2.0. Like there'll be another, like I still like the pandemic.
The pandemic's the best.
That's great. Pandemic. And I don't remember who coined it on Twitter, but that was awesome.
Hashtag pandemic. Ooh, never mind.
Nope, not doing that one.
I wonder, maybe Boggins can find it and record who like a picture of it.
And then repost it.
But I didn't say that.
Like, we name all these guys, and we're totally overlooking the fact that we have Ojemudia and we have Bassie coming back. So that went from a holy crap, we better draft Farley at 9 or Surtain or somebody at 9 that can play in the defensive backfield to we are stacked. I mean, unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I did want to bring up that myself and Mr. Boggins have a T-shirt or some slippers on the line, because I believe that with the lack of movement in free agency on a quarterback, that Denver is going to trade up to 3 or 4 and grab Fielder Lance. And he says that they're not. Just saying. What do you guys think? Are we doing quarterback? Are we doing tackle? Are we doing Parsons?
Now we have to write it down, because you said top 3 before. So now you're saying 3 or 4?
I said 3.
Okay. I just want to write it down.
Sir.
That's fine. I'll still take it. I just want to make sure that 3 or 4. Everyone's hearing it. Everyone write it down. Everyone in the comments write it down. Top 3 or 4.
They're trading up to pick 3 or pick 4.
Okay. And if they don't, I win.
Watch them go to 5. Oh, I'd be so mad. No, but I honestly think that with the lack of movement on a quarterback in free agency, they're going quarterback in the draft. And if you're going to go quarterback, you got to think they're going top 4. And in order to do that, you're going to have to trade up.
You know, Marcus, Mike didn't specify what slippers he wanted, so you could really have some fun with this purchase.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, there's some pink Broncos slippers out there with his name on it.
I'll wear them.
Some Fitz Magic slippers.
I'll wear them. I'll wear them on the pot.
You got to get like the with Fitz Magic all over the front.
The eyes are up by the ankles, and then the rest of the slippers just beard.
The worst is
with a chain.
A loose fitting robe as he's walking around with his cup of coffee.
Oh, good Lord.
I don't know. It's like everything is so weird, because like with the news of Corey Davis possibly being signed because he's going to be with Darnold, now they're saying, oh, well, the Jets are going to go Pitts, or they're going to go with Sewell. And then you got Miami, who's, you know, they just sign another quarterback to back up Tua?
Yeah, Brissett.
Brissett. So they're not going to want a quarterback, so they might go Pitts. So now it's like, well, they might not. Then I was like, well, crap, they don't have to go to 3 or 4 because somebody's going to fall to them. So like everything changed with just that one sentence of Corey Davis saying that he went to the Jets to play with Darnold.
I hate to say anything negative about Corey because he's one of my favorites, but I mean,
shut your mouth.
As we all know from the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Do you really think that the Jets with the second pick are going to be like, dude, don't tell anybody, but
don't keep it a secret?
I'm taking it out of the vault just for you.
I think the Broncos will probably end up doing what they did like when we got Bradley Chubb, which were like they weren't expecting. I heard Albright talking about this the other day. Like they weren't expecting Bradley Chubb to fall, and they had pretty much a setup to trade with the Bills. Yeah, the Bills wanted to move up and get Josh Allen, but but since Bradley Chubb fell to him, they were like, never mind. And they're like, let's just grab. So it just depends on who falls to him, and like if they call around and get feelers for who wants to move ahead or do what. I mean, if they sense the quarterback's going to fall to him, they might just chill, or if they just want to take hopefully we're crossing our fingers for a lot of receivers in the top 10. Like a lot of receivers go off the board, just take them all. So then it just falls down to like tackles and quarterback,
Yeah.
So Albert Breer was on live with Dan Patrick this morning, and he said two things that were interesting. So he was talking about the teams that would possibly trade up for for quarterbacks, and he mentioned the Panthers, which we've all heard. And he said that the word on the street is that the owner, who's got super deep pockets, is quote unquote obsessed with drafting a quarterback, moving up to get a quarterback. And then the other one he said that was a highly possible one was the Broncos, and I thought that was really interesting. Those are the two that people are really thinking are real possibilities of moving up. And I know that's not news. We've seen it, like we've talked about it, but I think it's a real thing. And the fact that all these other holes have been plugged makes it even more of a possibility. It's really going to be a fun next month.
Be afraid, Boggins. Be very afraid.
No, I'm not. If the Panthers got Deshaun Watson too, I'd be cool with that, because then that means the quarterbacks are just falling further down, and I'll take any of the top 4.
Chad, what do you think it would cost to move up?
Couple firsts.
Probably the first this year, first next year, a second, like a fifth or something like that.
Depends on where you want to go. If you're going in the top 3, it's going to cost a lot more than if you want to go into if you want to move up to 7 or something over the Panthers.
Yeah.
See, Peyton is watching this podcast and be like, yeah, we're going to go to 5. Just so that he's got to wear some floral slippers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe though, because you're in like Lions Eagles territory who need a lot more stuff, so they very much might trade back.
I should have said like top 7.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't.
I'm being specific. 3rd, 3 or 4.
Too late.
All right, now I'm gonna have to double check with Mo, but I do believe he is scheduled to be a guest on the show next Thursday. So Mo, if you're there, let me know. If not, I'll get a hold of you and we'll confirm. But I do believe that we're supposed to have Mo on here, Mohammed Badri, next podcast. We also have something in the works with another podcast that is called Orange Weekly. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or seen them. But we do have like a dueling draft thing kind of set up with them, and Boggins is going to be on it, and we're going to have a dueling draft kind of thing. We'll give you more information when that's all figured out. But we are going to have
sword.
Bring it.
Your Minecraft sword.
Make sure you put them in that they're trading up to 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Trading up to 5.
You're gonna put them in 5. All right, we're gonna have to go ahead and head out. We want to thank every single one of you for being in the chat. Ian, Rich, Chad, we had Muhammad in here, we had Jason, we had Biggie, Bronco. I gotta keep going. There's
Mark
more people up here. Mark Langley, bringing some funny jokes.
Biggie, Bronco,
Shadow Jacker, the best name on the face of the planet.
Jason O'Neill.
I know, lots of fun comments.
Going back. I think I got everybody. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Kenneth Booker. But again, make sure that you are tuning in every Thursday, 7654. You know where to put them. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter is where we go live. Make sure you give us a like, a follow, subscribe, turn on notifications, smash the thumbs up, and share. The thumbs up and the sharing really, really, really helps. So make sure you're doing that. Also, make sure you're tuning in on Tuesdays at the exact same time for Broncos Talk with 6'10" and Richie Rich. Again, thank you all. We're going to go ahead and head out. Bye, guys.
Have a good night, guys.
That's
Bye.
the wrong mouse.